do when the world stopped turning?
The answers to questions that I can't explain. But then I remember that God knows my name. The cross gives me hope to face my tomorrow. Reminds me that Jesus in love took my place. The cross gives me.
I apologize for not only the lateness of this video, but also quoting Alan Jackson. Well, let's face it, every anniversary of 9/11, that's what we're asked. Or, simply asked, where were you when the towers fell or whatever. And I'll give a little brief synopsis of where I was. I grew up in a small town, well, city version of a small town, and so small that the high school and junior high were in the same building. So I was in 7th grade, and I was 12 years old, and I had just almost done with art class, which is my favorite class. I was always making these weird sculptures that would always be put on display. I'll have to show them to you guys sometime if my family still has them. But anyway, and that's where I was. And kind of ruined art for me, Thing is I was 12. Still young. I was in that awkward age of learning about, of being a kid, but starting to grow up and learning about the world. And now a lot of people say that the day JFK was assassinated, that's the day America lost its innocence. And I kind of feel like that's kind of how 9/11 was for my generation. I think that's the day many of us realized the world isn't such a nice place. And boy, did we learn that a lot in one day. Well, I don't really want to talk about where I was on 9/11 or talk about 9/11 in particular. I want to talk about after 9/11 because I have some really good stories I think I should share, although for some reason I never share these stories, so I figured I'd share them with you. The first thing I want to share is American flags. Why am I sharing American flags? Well, American flags were everywhere. Everyone in my school decorated their locker in American flags, myself included. And I remember when I would walk home feeling scared about what's going to happen, I would see the red, white, and blue everywhere. From the second I walked out of that school to the second I walked into my house, it was nothing but American flags guiding me home. And it gave me a smile. It made me feel protected and thankful to be in a country where I get to have freedoms. The second thing I want to share is actually really sweet. I actually made a Muslim friend on 9/11. Both of us were standing at the school phone, and I turned around and I asked her name and everything. When Bush declared war, she was actually crying because she had family in Iran and was worried about her family. And I too was worried about my family. And we sat there, me a Christian, her a Muslim, just hugging each other. And we actually would stand on street corners holding a sign saying, "Honk if you love America, God bless the USA," and things like that. The third thing I want to share, which will probably shock some of you, my school brought back prayer. For a short time, granted, but it was a public school and no one complained. Boy, those were the days. American flags and school prayer. It's like the 1950s all over again. Well, a week after 9/11, we actually stood in our courtyard, the junior high and high school together, and We not only had a moment of silence, but we also cited the Lord's Prayer. No one complained, isn't that right? And if you didn't agree with it, you just didn't say it, or you went back inside. But most people, even if they didn't believe it, said it, which is funny because I know it. But, I just made me feel special knowing that I actually got to be part of school prayer. A lot of people my age can't say that. Really wish they'd bring that back, because trust me, it makes students feel so much better starting the day out like that. The last thing I want to share, which is leading into the main topic I want to talk about. I was also in choir at the time. My mouth's getting a little dry, excuse me. And our choir teacher, who also taught the high school, wanted to do a concert for 9/11. And so we did a whole bunch of patriotic songs and went from, the junior high kids started, then the high school kids. Well, the last song that was sung was God Bless the USA. And the high school kids were up on stage and they started singing. And once they started singing, us junior high kids walked down every aisle in the audience carrying an American flag. Every one of us had an American flag in our hand. And we walked up to the stage, and then we, with American flags in our hand, joined singing God Bless the USA with the high school kids. Not a dry eye was in that room. I love being a part of that. Because us kids gave hope to the adults. And that's why I wanted to share that. We, for a brief moment, us kids who didn't understand and were scared, were hope in my town. And that's the thing, is I want to talk about hope. This video, this vlog is not about 9/11. I gave an example because there's something beautiful in the story of 9/11 that I feel like doesn't get talked about as much. At Ground Zero, they were sifting through all the debris and rubble and dust of everything from when the towers fell. Only 20 people were found alive in the rubble. 20 people out of all the people when the towers went down. And they were devastated and just devastated, and I can't think of any other word because it's just so horrible to think about. And they just felt like all hope was lost. Well, there ended up being this area where the light was shining through, and there was a bunch of crosses, and one huge cross, as you saw in my slideshow, stood right there. Two beams formed together as a cross. And that cross became their hope. That area of Ground Zero was actually known as God's house. And that got many of the first responders, the firefighters, the police officers, the survivors, the victims who lost people, hope in the dark time, the darkest of dark times we've probably ever had in this country. That cross got them through that. And that's the thing. The cross, which is basically Jesus, is the light in the darkest of times. And that's what I wanted to share. I wanted to encourage you that no matter how bad or dark things seem, Christ is the light at the end of the tunnel, and he's the light in that darkness. And 9/11 is a great example of that. And if people can see the light during the darkest times of our country, so can we. I also wanted to share a couple quick stories. I know time's getting a little long here. Sunday, we actually went to a memorial near our house, about 10-15 minutes away, that actually has a piece of the North Tower. In Ohio, there was lots of EMT, firefighters, and so forth that went and volunteered at Ground Zero. So they donated a piece of the World Trade Center here so we can remember that. So I actually led prayer there with my family. I don't know why, but being there, seeing that, I just was overcome with the need to pray. So I got down, I held my hand in my family and started praying with a whole bunch of people around me. Nobody joined, but they stood there watching us, and it was a beautiful moment. Here is a couple of videos. One is my oldest daughter looking on to the piece of the North Tower. So here's a couple pictures of Sunday. As always, I would like to end with a Bible verse. I'm sorry this video is so late, it's so long. The light shines in the darkness, and the darkness has not overpowered it. John 1:5. As always, Christ is for you and not against you.